All right, now watch this. I'll show you one more thing. So he shakes off the snake. They think he's going to die. He doesn't die. And cool place to end a sermon, I think, but I want to give you something that will maybe help you. Let me just see from a show of hands. Is there anybody in here who has found yourself in Malta recently? It could be a season. It could be, Malta represents, that stuck place. I think these are the kinds of questions, generic questions that people ask because we know that it's guaranteed to get 100% participation. I mean, who doesn't feel stuck from time to time? And that's kind of the point, isn't it? Is that we all must go through Malta. And Paul, at this point in the story, has a decision to make. Misery or mission? Misery or mission? Because we already read that it was rainy and cold. We already read that it was unfamiliar. We already read that the man almost died. And now he has a decision to make, and so do you, about this season of your life. Paul didn't decide to go to Malta, but now he has to decide what to do while he's there. And he can sit and wait to get off this stupid island, or he can, he can do on Malta what he did in Jerusalem. All right, so Paul, they think he's a god now, right? So they're like, hey, this guy's important. And apparently the chief of the island hears about it, and he wants to have dinner with this guy who can survive a snake bite. So your opportunities in life will be the byproduct of adversity that you go through. And he gets invited to the home of the official on the island because he was able to stand up under the trial. You keep praying for the opportunity, but you don't want to stand up under the adversity. So somebody say it had to happen. I had to go through something. I had to prove perseverance. That's the only way my faith could grow to enable the opportunity. So there was an estate nearby. Look at this in verse 7. There was an estate nearby that belonged to Publius, which is incidentally a baby name that is available to any of you who are looking for something to name your child that will get them beat up. And this guy's important, and he wants to see the guy who was able to stand up after the snake bite and survive the shipwreck. And he welcomed all of them into the home and showed generous hospitality for 3 days. And I'm imagining Paul's thinking, this is nice. But at some point during Paul's stay, he learns that Publius has a problem. Touch somebody, say, Publius has a problem. And Publius's problem is about to become Paul's opportunity. Because Publius's father was sick in bed with the Malta fever. And it's bad. He's got temperatures and dysentery. And Paul, when he heard about it, went in to see him. Now, the way I picture it, and maybe I'm using too much imagination, but I imagine that they're sitting down to a meal, and Paul sees somebody wheeled into the room and says, who's that? And Publius says, it's my dad. And Paul says, what's wrong with him? And Publius says, he's sick, and there's nothing we can do about it. I imagine about right here is where Paul started smiling, which seems kind of weird, but maybe this is the moment that Paul realizes there was a reason I went through the storm. There was a reason the hurricane hit. There was a reason the ship had to break apart. There's a reason we had to run aground on Malta. Paul said, can I see him? Can we have a moment? And the Bible says that when Paul went in to see him, he prayed for him. Wow. And watch the next part. You're going to love this. You look kind of military. Can I use you for an example? Sit down. Everybody sit down. Paul went in and prayed for him. And after prayer, somebody say it had to happen. It had to happen. Come on, Missouri, it had to happen. You had to be here at this sermon today. There's something God wanted to speak to you. You had to be here with the ZZ Top beard, goatee. You had to be right there in that section. And Paul put his hand on Publius's dad's head. And when he put his hand on his head, the Bible says he was healed, which is a miracle all in its own. But what made it even more amazing to me was to realize that the same hand that the healing came through was the same hand that had a snake hanging from it just 3 days ago. Oh, come on, you all start praising God right now. What you went through that didn't kill you, that's... So, let me have your chair, sissy. Paul says, I can't keep the snake from biting me. Touch somebody, say it had to happen. The other day, Abby came up to me and she said, Elijah just bit me. I said, did you bite him back? She said, no, sir. I said, go upstairs and tell your brother you can bite me again if you want to, but Daddy said to tell you, if you bite me, I bite back. Now, that might not be good parenting, but this is good preaching. Somebody tell the devil, I bite